What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Wave Files with Reg West. I am, of course, Reg West. On today's podcast episode, we have an amazing human being who is saving lives, literally saving lives. Every day, he is an ER doctor. He is an author. He is a mentor to so many young individuals. Listen, I could stay here all day, but let me just bring him in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my good friend, Dr. Sampson Davis. Good morning, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm well, Reg. Thanks for putting together a platform such as this, and thanks for having me.
No, man, thank you. I put on my Heathcliff sweater for you today. My Heathcliff Huxtable sweater. You know, make sure I'm in doctor mode with you today.
That's it, man. I just changed. Literally, I just got back from the hospital. I just took my scrub top off. So
listen, somebody is in character today. I'm the one, I guess. So let's start with what's going on. I mean, I hear you talk about this all the time on the varied platforms, but can you talk to us how we're doing right now with COVID, with the vaccines being sent out, with certain people wanting to take them, not wanting to take them, and have you taken yours yet?
So yeah, I mean, very good point. We have been through a whirlwind with COVID this year. I think we've all been sort of humbled by what has happened. Some of us have lost friends, loved ones. I lost my brother to the virus as well. So I've seen it from a personal level, and I've experienced it from, a patient level. I had colleagues, two colleagues that I work closely with, succumb to the virus, and patients that I take care of. So it's been a whirlwind with this virus. Over 300,000 deaths, for the country here. And the numbers will grow because we're at the holiday time of the year where it's almost impossible not to come together in some sort of gathering of celebration for Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, you name it, and New Year's. So it's difficult to sort of continue to practice the number one offense, which is defense, which is the face mask and the social distancing and the hand washing. But I do. Well, with that said, this vaccine seems to be everything that you could dream of. Is with 95% efficacy rate for Moderna and Pfizer vaccine. I mean, you're talking about this is a blessing beyond any scope of imagination. It's way more than any one of us could have wished for or hoped for to have a vaccine so effective, and that will start to roll out at the end of 2020 and into the year 2021. The hope is to have a great majority of us vaccinated by mid-year 2021, where we can start to see a decrease in the number of people with the virus, and we can start to achieve herd immunity. I am currently in line to receive the vaccine. I haven't received it yet, but I'm in line. It's a tier system, meaning that you have to sign up and then it's randomly selected every fifth person. And we do it that way because we don't want any one department to have everyone who's received the vaccine, just God forbid, there's any sort of side effects, and then that whole department is shut down, and we can't have that happen. We still have to keep our essential first line responders on the front lines, rather essential front line workers. We have to still keep on the front line, and so we're trying to be very smart in the way that we administer the vaccine, as well as to monitor if there's any side effects that beyond what we would expect some side effects to do with a vaccination.
Well, first and foremost, I want to send my condolences. I didn't know your brother passed. I'm so sorry to hear that, bro. Secondly, I do understand the way the administration is moving to administer the vaccines. It does make sense. I've heard of side effects in people already happening, but doesn't that happen with any vaccine?
Yeah, so good point, and thank you for your words, the condolences. I appreciate that, Reg. And with any vaccination, you expect side effects, and so there's different vaccines in the sense that the two major differences are live vaccines and attenuated or sort of ones that's made on a lab benchtop with genetic coding and things of that nature. So this is more of a genetic coding. The live vaccinations are ones that we take actually a real piece of the virus itself and inject it into a human being with the hope that they're going to mount an immune response. This here is a genetic made, not live vaccination, which is great because you cannot get coronavirus from the vaccine itself. So you would get your body would produce some sort of reaction towards the proteins, which is the molecular shape of the virus, and develop antibodies against that virus that way, so that you can always be protective from the virus itself. So side effects you expect most likely is usually just immune reaction, meaning your body is reacting. So you may see some soreness at the injection site, some body aches, you may have a mild temperature or fever. There's been some reports, unfortunately, of some people having Bell's palsy, and Bell's palsy kind of presents like a stroke, but it only involves a portion of your face that sags and pulls itself down. Now, Bell's palsy tends to be transient and not permanent. It doesn't last. It doesn't have a chronic permanent outcome. But unfortunately, that is a pretty significant side effect. It's only been reported in very small numbers, and so what we do in medicine is, does the good outweigh the bad? Meaning, like, does this sort of bad situation, is it so huge that the good is outweighed? And in this case, so far, that's not the situation. That the good of having antibodies against this virus is far more the outcome, with far less side effects than been reported on a whole number that we still feel comfortable with for administering the vaccination to Americans.
That's amazing. So now with the Bell's palsy, you mentioned that it's temporary and treatable.
It's usually temporary. I mean, there's different levels of it. So meaning that some people get it and recover right away. Sometimes you have the severe cases that I've seen, because Bell's palsy is common outside of this vaccination. I see Bell's palsy in patients pretty often in the emergency department.
Uh-huh.
So it's pretty common, but usually it's this over time. You use steroids, and in severe cases, you have to go to physical therapy to sort of kind of retrain that muscle and that nerve to sort of get back to a sense of normal. But for the most part, and most often, Bell's palsy is never considered to be chronic. There may be some sort of lingering impact of it, but usually it resolves on its own.
I understand. So even still, this shouldn't prevent people from wanting to take the vaccine. Is the point I'm getting to?
Yeah, no, it shouldn't prevent people from wanting to take the vaccine. I think there's going to be skeptics out there, and that's appropriately so. I mean, America has done a poor job in study options sometimes, making some Americans not feel welcome and or using them without their permission to see how certain disease processes work. So I know there's going to be some skepticism out there with some individuals, but so far, believe me, I'm monitoring it as well, and I'm watching the numbers closely. I'm reading every article that I could get my hand on just to see what's happening, how many people have been vaccinated. I mean, Moderna this week is anticipating vaccinating 6 million people this week. So if we reach numbers like millions of people by the beginning of the year, we should be in double digits of millions of people who's received the vaccination, and therefore we can report closely what side effects, if any, are significant enough that we should be concerned. And so we'll see how that plays out the first quarter of 2021.
Now with 2021 here, is there a uptick in your particular ER room as far as COVID cases, or is a second wave here in your facility?
Yeah, we're seeing increased numbers in the Northeast, and but they're more significant in the Midwest and on the West Coast. I mean, the West Coast is reporting no ICU beds, and the
Wow.
same impact has happened in the Midwest. In the Northeast, we were really slammed in the beginning of this virus. We really were the quintessential hot spot. We were it to sort of see how impactful the virus was on us. And now, so we are seeing a second wave here in the Northeast, but interestingly enough, I'm seeing more patients but less hospitalizations, in the sense that the numbers
Mm.
have increased with the hospitalizations, but compared to the amount of people that I was seeing before, a lot of people were being hospitalized. Now I'm seeing less. But with that said, I don't want to be misleading. We are seeing 3,000, well over 3,000 deaths a day. That's more individuals dying from this virus than that perished, unfortunately, in the World Trade Center. And so we're seeing those type of numbers historically play out day in and day out. And so the challenges that we are just past the major holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa, just major celebrations that took place. That it's like not all of us did not gather. You know, a great majority that still came together to celebrate. So, and what this virus have done is trail behind those gatherings. We're seeing a spike now that's going to play out until, again, until the great majority of us have been vaccinated, and until we get past, weeks past or months past, rather, the holiday celebrations that took part during the wintertime.
I got you. Shifting gears just slightly. I know you're extremely busy in the ER, but I also know that you're extremely busy with being a mentor to a variety of individuals. Can you speak on your mentorship program just a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm one of the three doctors. You may or may not heard of us, but we made this pact, unconventional pact, when we were high school students and growing up in Newark, New Jersey, to become doctors, and we plowed through the years of school together as friends, best friends, as college together as brothers, and medical and dental school together as brothers, and we graduated. Our story made a feature in a hometown paper, the Star Ledger, on the front page, and it started off with it sort of was entitled "The Start of Something Big." And from there, our story snowballed, and we went on to write a book called The Pact, The Bond, and I wrote several books, Living and Dying in Brick City, and then the stuff with Charlie Jeter. And so we became authors, and then immediately we formed a foundation called the Three Doctors Foundation, which is geared on health and mentorship. And so we just felt the need to right away help mentor other students, especially particular students of color, to let them know that it's possible. Growing up, there was a lack of, and still is, of Black professionals and brown professionals who look like me, who's from similar neighborhoods such as I am, who carries himself with the same sort of swagger as I do. So to have
he got some swagger, people. He's got some swagger. All right, let's be clear. Let's be clear.
To have that, Reg, to emulate and to model after is key, because it gives belief, it gives confidence that that's possible. And most recently, I'm taking part with Dr. Oz. He has a campaign called More Black Doctors campaign, and I took part in a webinar. I'm a part of the committee who select the students that give out scholarships of $10,000 to deserving medical students who've shared their stories. And I can tell you, I've read a few articles, a few essays by these medical students, and I mean, it's impossible to choose one person as a winner. All the stories are touching. All the stories are about overcoming hardships and obstacles, and so it just furthers my confidence that all of us have the capability of doing whatever we want to do in life. And then it's not going to be easy for some of us, but we just got to plow through. That's not an excuse that you can't get through it, but having representation through mentorship, it shows that this is somebody, as a mentor, your mentee could feel a sense of like, this is a person I connect with. This is somebody that sees something in me that I didn't see in myself, or that they didn't see in themselves when they were my age. So I think having that energy, that sort of transference of energy, helps to inspire and to model. And there's really no profession out there that we African Americans are not underrepresented in professionally. And so we just got to continuously make sure that we're leading the charge to sort of shape what our professions look like, and to know that people of color can reach those heights as well.
And I appreciate you touching on that. So the reason I jokingly started with I'm wearing a Heathcliff Huxtable sweater, but to be honest, you hit the nail on the head. As a kid, there was no other Black doctors on TV that I can recall, and yeah. I mean, people in general are a product of what they see, so for you and your brothers with the Three Doctors, what you're doing is so key, because look, like I remember having when I was in first grade, Al Roker came to my school and told us about the weather, but I'm like, that's nice, but I need somebody around consistently to teach me about these other opportunities that I don't see on TV, because all I see on TV are basketball players and rappers. I don't see that many doctors on TV. I don't see I mean, if you want to even branch it out, hairdressers, technicians, scientists, all these things weren't really represented to us visually. And for most of us in our communities, we didn't know these people. Our doctor was white. Our construction workers were white. So it's good to visually see and have a long-standing relationship with people that look like you, so you can have a better understanding of what you could possibly be growing up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. I tell you, I just even things now that I stumble upon, like, oh, I could be a part of a hedge fund. Like I didn't even
Right.
know about
I didn't
hedge
know what a
funds. You
hedge
know what
fund
I mean?
was when I was a kid.
Right. Right. So you like the biggest thing you aim for was like maybe I could work for the bank to be a bank teller, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you never thought beyond your sights and your limits, and how could you if you because you can't aim for what you can't see. And so even like Cosby is, I know he's come under scrutiny appropriately so, but his show historically did so much for youth growing up, especially those from challenging disenfranchised communities. So I know for me, it was great to see him on television and to see his family and to see how a black family interacted and engaged and everything from all the actors and actresses in the show. So it definitely was something that I looked to for inspiration, but still to your point, didn't give us a complete clarity and definition because that was television. This wasn't everyday neighborhood situations. And so, with the mentoring program now that I'm a part of, the hope is to touch on every life as possible in every community. And it's not about any one particular individual. It's just about a group of collective professionals working together to make sure that we're doing our part to shape the minds and the possibilities of tomorrow's generation.
And that's it. That's all we can do at the end of the day. We have to give back because we've learned so much in our errors and growth that it's necessary to teach them the stuff. Speaking of the stuff,
Absolutely.
you are a author. 4 books, sir. 4 books. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, five. Yeah, 5 books. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay, so the latest was a book called The Stuff that you co-wrote with Charlie
Right.
Jeter, and previous
Yeah.
to that was the book with the three doctors book. Am I correct?
Hmm. That's
Okay,
correct. Yep.
so
So, mhm.
no, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. So no, yeah, 5 books just to kind of give a little sort of backdrop of them and flavor for them. Well, the first one called The Pact, and that's the story of me and my two brothers, Ramik and George, and us making this promise to become doctors, and they sort of chronicle our struggle to get to that sort of that journey to get there. And the first one we were going to write this book when we were approached to do it. This is coming off the heels of the Oprah show and S boards and they were like, "Oh, we're going to write a book." And, you thought that was going to be this book, this dynamic book about how great things were in your life, and it was far from that. Of course, the publishers, rightfully so, we had to put together some of the more challenging struggles that we had, and it took off. The book became a New York Times bestseller, evergreen book, and some 20 years later, the book still sells very well and performs very well, and it feels great to be sort of in that conversation with a lot of students who said this book made a difference in my life. It's the first book I read cover to cover. And it reminds me of my youth and me reading books like Malcolm X and feeling that same sort of inspiration and vigor towards reading because I read something that finally connected to me, that spoke to me in a way that no other book had did before. And that's what the pack has done for so many out there. And we're just blessed to be a part of that. When you start to do a project, as you know, you don't know how it's going to end. You don't know how it's going to shape. You have visions of what it can possibly be, but it's a huge blessing. I never thought this book would have transcended so many lives. And I think the reason why is because it's relatable. It's a relatable read. Like people see their sense of hardships and struggle, and it humanizes the situation. Like, okay, I'm not alone. Like I remember so many times being in medical school and going through a hardship or a struggle and felt like I was an alien of some sort because I felt like I was the only person experiencing that. And it's just so reassuring when you know you're not alone in this battle and this sort of challenge that you're facing, and someone else has done it, went through it, and overcame it. So then you say to yourself, man, if they can do it, I can do it too. And I think that's what the pack offers is sort of kind of medicine in its own in its own way, and healing, and sort of helping to promote possibilities out of improbabilities. And so from the pack, did a book called We Beat the Street, which was a youth adolescent version of the pack that many fourth graders, fifth graders read, and that became a New York Times bestseller as well. Similar story, just kind of adapted into a youth format for the younger reading audience. And then from there, we did a book called The Bond. And The Bond is about each one of us grew up without our dads. And there were different stages. Like one of us had dad in the house for a few years. One of us never knew our dad. One of us, our dad was in and out of jail. So to kind of come and share our thoughts about the importance of fatherhood and how that shapes a young person's life was important to us. So we wrote a chapter about the lack of dad not being there. And then our dads had an opportunity to write their rebuttal chapter about what they were going through and what they were experiencing. And then what we noticed through this is that one, we were able to heal, but we also saw that fatherlessness, especially in our community, was something that was generational. And that in order for us to sort of break the chains of this generational cycle of fatherlessness, we have to be accountable and attainable to our children, but we have to also show fathers how to be. Because my dad grew up without his dad, and same for Ramik and same for George. So it was the cycle kept repeating itself over and over again. But through that book project, we were able to understand our dad's story and humanize their situation, and also helped us to develop a tighter bond with them and allowed us to forgive our dads. And so, it allows us now, as we move a little bit of an older age now, to be fathers to our children in a more, effective, impactful way, being there for our children. And that's the bond.
Beautiful.
And
then we move from
book,
the bond to, okay.
Then from the bond, then I did a book called Living and Dying in Brick City, inner city, stories from an inner city ER. And that was my attempt at sort of dealing with some of the public health issues, gun violence in our community, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, the overpopulation of these medical ailments that disproportionately affects the Black and brown communities more. And so I did this book, Living and Dying in Brick City, in a dramatization format that tells the kind of real and raw things that I see in the ER that came through my front door, and how I was connected to them, not only on a professional level, but a personal level. And so I did that book a few years ago, and it's been an interesting journey. It's a good read. A lot of healthcare professionals read the book, and it was recently picked up by Stars to be turned into a TV series. And just with so much happening with COVID, well, so much, it's a pause now, unfortunately, with so much happening with COVID. They had to sort of put a pause on it now. And so now it's back in the shopping arena. But just to think that it's a project that still has the potential to be brought to the television screen is important. The same with the pack. We're still have had some offers to make the pack into a movie and now into a TV series. We're just trying to find that right deal on the right sort of agenda to get the pack made into a TV show itself. And then the last project outside of Living and Dying in Brick City is a book I did not too long ago with our good friend and sister, Charlie Jeter. And Charlie Jeter, as many of you guys know, she runs the Turn 2 Foundation. She's the brother of New York great Derek Jeter. She's a phenomenal leader in the sector of philanthropy, which Turn 2 Foundation do a tremendous amount of work in the community, giving back and shaping the minds of young students. And what I like about that is that they do a lot of peer mentoring. They have a lot of their mentees that's a part of their program mentor other youth. So you have a high school senior mentoring a ninth grader. And I think that's just phenomenal, because no one's more relatable and connect to each other more than a 12th grader to a ninth grader, way more than I could with a ninth or 12th grader at this point in my life. So, and with the stuff, the book is Charlie and I was interested on trying to figure out like what makes a person want to pursue and not give up. What is it? What is the magic like? And if we can find the magic, is there something that we have to go buy, or is it something that we all have? And how do we tap into it if we haven't? And how do some people display it and others don't display it? And so we started out kind of with the hypothesis of trying to figure out what is the magic. And how do we sort of obtain it? And what we realize is that we all have these 11 elements, these 11 attributes, and these are ironclad attributes that help you overcome any challenge or any situation that you're facing in life. We spoke to over 40, 50 different people who's overcome tremendous hardships, everything from financial ruin to medical issues. Being one guy was burnt over 90% of his body and given 100% mortality rate. We had a family whose son. I mean, these are just real rich stories of individuals, real life stories. Who we had a family whose child was diagnosed with a genetic condition with imminent death, like guaranteed by a certain age, and the family would not allow that the sort of last answer. So they put together genetic research to develop a sort of genetic code or genetic gene study that they did. And certainly enough, they raised the funds. They did the study, and the child received the medication, and so far the child is surviving, is thriving. It's not 100% sort of. She's not functioning as a everyday you and I, but she's doing way better and survived, more importantly, and thriving, more importantly. So again, this the stuff is these 11 attributes that we sort of teased out that we all have to overcome and to deal with any obstacle or challenge that you face. It's just simple things like surround yourself with like-minded people and develop your mantra. Like it's these and we share stories to make it dynamic and to give it texture so that you can say, okay, this is what it looks like when I surround myself with a team. This is what it really looks like when I say forge my motivation no statement. So the stuff was something that was dear to her and I, and fortunately we were able to share it with the rest of you, and hopefully you have an opportunity to read it and enjoy it.
I can co-sign that book, ladies and gentlemen. I've enjoyed that book. It's a good book. You should go pick it up. How's your mental health? Let me ask you that.
You know, I do a lot of things now to take care of my mental health that I never did before. And so what do I mean by that? Before I used to like, oh, I'm just gonna sort of just zone out and kind of and indirectly just sort of hope that I was better. Like I was just, kind of pursue an activity in a moment. But now I have to be not inactive in that pursuit. I have to be actively pursuing ways to sort of keep my mental health in shape. And so the way that I do that is I go to therapy, I exercise, I meditate, I use positive mantras and chants. I keep a book, notebook where I write down just positive affirmations. And those 4 or 5 techniques are extremely important in making sure that you stay on top of your mental health. Is you got to think of your mental health, in my opinion, like your physical health in a way, because if you had high blood pressure, you'd be taking high blood pressure medication. You'd change your diet, you'll
Right,
change the way that you eat, and the way
right,
that you exercise. So the
right.
same with mental health, and I think therapy is important. I think having a soundboard to talk to. I think meditation is important. I think religious. You can use you have your clergy, you have pastor. You got to have an active sort of format in making sure that you always checking in to make to ensure your mental health is on point and that it's well balanced and that you're not doing things to cause yourself more harm. And there's no more important time than right now as we all deal with this pandemic and sort of this COVID fever we have, of just sort of sitting idle and not able to see one another, and then losing loved ones unexpectedly. It's been a tough year for all of us.
Well, I wanted to close on that note because a lot of people don't think therapy is cool. I know it's cool. Everybody, please take care of your mental health, because before you can, like doctor said, before you can take care of your physical health, you got to make sure your mental health is good. We're going through a really tough time, and you heard it from our Dr. Davis. I know you got to get going, but before you do, I just want to say thank you for taking your time. I want to say thank you for the work you do in the ER every day, because I know it's going crazy right now still. Where can they find you, Dr. Davis, on social
Yeah,
media and whatnot, please?
yeah, definitely. I still do a great deal of I'm on social media. I do a great deal of stuff on social media. I do a lot of television as well. I do a lot of appearances on Dr. Oz Address Medical issues. And I travel the country when we were traveling, speaking at different venues. Now I do a lot of virtual conferences, but you can always reach out to me on social media. The handle is all the same. It's at Dr. Sampson, Sampson Davis, Davis. So at Dr. Sampson Davis. And that's on all my social media handles. And my website is the same, drsampsondavis.com. Dr.
Sampson Davis, again, thank you so much for your time. We will see you on Dr. Oz and every other platform you're on right now. I'm going to take this itchy sweater off. This sweater is itchy. I'm out of here. Wave Files. Thank you, people. Good night.